Welcome back to the Business Insider. Tonight I have the pleasure to be joined by Mr. Mohamed Morsy, a management and public sector consultant and the chairman and co-founder of T20. Pleasure to have you with us.
It's my pleasure
on the show tonight.
Allow me first to congratulate you for the new program, Business Insider.
Thank you very much. Pleasure having you. Let me start by asking you about the black swan that I referred to earlier in the program, the unexpected, the unimaginable, which is COVID-19. It was unexpected, unimaginable for people like us. Maybe for some experts it was, but for us it wasn't. And then with all its repercussions and the repercussions that we had to adapt with and live with, at the same time grow an economy with here in this country. What's your take on the lessons learned?
First, it's an exceptional year, as you are saying, and it is really a black swan. And it would be very difficult for people to have imagined that such a year would come. Nevertheless, I think that the government and the president, they have taken the right measures and the right decisions to assure that Egypt has an economic growth in such a year, which is, in my opinion, is a very important and a significant achievement of being able to balance between the health and the economy of the people. So even though it was an exceptional and a surprising year, I think that Egypt has taken the right decisions. And if you see from lately, the measures that Europe is taking is very similar to what we have been taking in May and April. We're not seeing full lockdowns all across Europe as in the last winter and spring. Now we're seeing more of restriction of movement from 6 in the afternoon to 6 in the morning. We're seeing very similar measures to what Egypt has taken. And I think that this is because a wise balance between the economy and the health.
Then again, when one looks at the economic performance of major economies and sees the effects of the pandemic on those economies, and you look at our economy and say, how come we were not affected the same way they were? Is it because of public spending? Is it because of projects? Is it because of the localized production? Is it because of preparation? What would you say is the main factor behind a modest growth in the country's economic performance compared to major economies being hit hard?
All what you have said. I think that several reasons have led to the growth that we are getting. If I may select a few, I think that the directions and letting the country or letting the economy continue was very significant and very important. I think that the decisions of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in terms of investing in infrastructure projects is very important for driving the economy. Investing in infrastructure opens a lot of private sector to work in those infrastructure projects. And if I remember correctly the figures, you have almost 3 million people working in real estate in public infrastructure projects, which is definitely very important for keeping the growth in the country. Egypt is a strong economy. It is a market of 100 million population with a very significant or a very important spend. So I think that the keeping the momentum and keeping the productive sector going has led to this growth.
Hmm. Where would you say lie the opportunities?
It lies in the opportunities for growth or for investment?
Both. Investments will lead to growth.
For investments, I think that the opportunities lies in different sectors. So working in the investment in infrastructure projects, either with the government or as a localization factor to those projects. Let me take an example. The railway infrastructure that is coming, 300 billion Egyptian pounds. This is a huge investment opportunity for the private sector. People can work in localization of a number of different items throughout the railways. The railway is not just trains that passes, but it is an IT system that controls it. It is cables that controls it. It is the basalt that is put in this, which is mining equipment. You have iron that is the steel. So there is plenty of investment opportunities for the private sector to work with infrastructure sector. So I would say
here you're saying railway, you're talking 300 billion Egyptian pounds. That's around 20 billion euros of investments in that sector alone.
Yes. Mm. So the government, by going into a very significant mega project, it opens in front of the private sector doors to a number of or huge opportunities of investing. So this is a call for a lot of multinationals to come, install their base here, and work on local mega projects. Infrastructure is one side. I think that there is definitely the petrochemical sector, as we heard from Mr. Osama, that is a very important sector for investment here in Egypt now. Mining sector, I always think that the mining sector is underexplored, and we have significant opportunities in gold, in iron, in phosphate, in white sand, in black sand. So there is significant opportunities for private sector to come and work in Egypt in the mining sector. Agriculture and agribusiness is definitely, and it has always been an important sector for Egypt growth and investment as well. So it is a very significant employment pocket, as well as an attractive to a lot of investment, especially that it goes to the consumer market. Renewable energy is with our 1.5 giga project and the largest renewable solar energy project in the world. I think it's a clear flagship to attract investors in renewable energy, and we're seeing now the Ministry of Electricity going with a 500 mega of wind in renewable energy. So I think that renewable energy is also a very important sector. Pharma is a very important sector for investment in Egypt, especially with the market, with the logistics, with all our connections with the Arab world.
Growth is seen mostly when you talk about expectations of growth in developed or developing economies. You're talking mainly in the medical, the health field, and the technological field. This is the driver of growth for 2021, 2022, if you will. Where's our share in that?
I think it's so healthcare and ICT or digital is definitely a very important pocket for investment. If I start with the ICT, I think that the digital transformation is a theme that we are seeing in Egypt, and we are seeing even in neighboring countries. And the level of investment that we have seen in the last year, and it's going to, and we will see in the coming 2-3 years, is very significant. We are hearing about paperless government, and I think that the president has clear direction that the movement to the new administrative capital is not just a movement of building, but also a movement in the system and a movement and an introduction of a number of technology. So we will see a lot of investment in data centers. We'll see a lot of investment in IT infrastructure as well as software. I believe that there is a significant opportunities for international players to come and invest here in Egypt. We have all the intrinsics, we have the market, we have the strong engineers and strong software developers that are able to cater for this, and we have an innovative number of startups that can really take this sector or the ICT in general into a real important pocket of investment. Healthcare and pharma is definitely a very significant sector. For 100 million of population, that the defensive sectors in terms of healthcare, education, and retail and food in general, those are defensive sectors. Population will continue to need doctors, to need right hospitals, to need pharma, to need good schools. So those are defensive sectors. It is definitely a huge opportunity for anyone that is interested in those sectors is to invest here in Egypt.
And in demand.
Because
Right.
the demand.
Let me take this issue up with Mr. Mohamed Meher, who is the chairman of the Egyptian Capital Markets Association. Mr. Meher, a pleasure to have you on the show on Business Insider, on the first Business Insider on Nile TV International. Thank you for joining us. And let me start by asking you the same question. Where would you say is Egypt's competitive edge in economic growth in fiscal year 2021 till the end of 2021, if you will?
Yes, actually we have, though the whole world was in negative growth throughout the year 2020, Egypt passed this year in
on a positive note.
A positive of 3 point something growth. Also, this growth came mainly from the investment of the government, mainly in infrastructure, preparing the economy to attract FDIs, product investors, either through direct investment or through also the indirect investment, which comes through acquisitions on Egyptian existing companies or doing joint ventures through a PPP or even with private sector. Actually, the competitive advantage comes with having the infrastructure available. We have now in power generation, electricity. We have sufficient gas productivity, and now we are in a process of having self-sufficient supply of gas. Also, we have huge industrial zones, either in west of Suez Canal zone or east of Port Said. Also, the new cities with new industrial areas in Upper Egypt.
These are all positive. These are all positive tools to attract investments and to attract FDIs. How do we sell our competitive advantage?
Yes, actually, it needs some effort, of course, either from government from one side and from private sector on the other side. The government now did its role with having the infrastructure in place. Also, there's some fine-tuning should be done with regard to power and energy cost, which is some industries need to be studied carefully in order to get these industries into the international competition zone. We have also some areas which attract investors by giving the land for free. This will help the projects which need big plots for industrial projects to have cheaper startup investment. Also, the government announced some initiatives with regard to transportation. Now we heard about the new project of the electrical train and the development of the existing network to cover Egypt from east to west and from north to south. The new roads exceeded 5,000 kilometers with maintenance of the old roads as well. The electricity supply is exceeding the current consumption, and it can absorb new expansion on industrial with heavy consumption of electricity and power.
These are all points of strength that we can capitalize on.
A very important issue. We have a big market for internal.
Right. Mr. Mohamed Meher, the chairman of the Egyptian Capital Markets Association, thank you very much for joining us on the show. We hope you will join us in person next time. It was a pleasure having you. And let me just continue our discussion with all these are points of strengths that both you and Mr. Mohamed Meher have mentioned. Yet, of course, due to the coronavirus pandemic, the foreign direct investment growth rate is not the desired growth rate or the targeted growth rate that neither the government nor expert expectations were geared towards. However, there seems to be an important role for marketing your points of success. Where do you see us in that regard?
I think that the foreign direct investment is on the decrease on all the countries in the world.
Right. But we are on top of the list in Africa.
We're on the top on the list of Africa, which really, which is a clear message that we're on the right path.
Right.
Will it be an easy path? I think that it is a difficult path. It is not an easy path to attract investments, especially during this COVID crisis, and after the COVID crisis, we will see a different global economy than what we have seen in the last decade or two. Nevertheless, I think that we have the intrinsics, we have the opportunities. And as you are mentioning, marketing our opportunities is very important. I think that the key message or the key point that we need to answer or do in a better way is how to create a better or an easier way of doing business in Egypt. And I believe that creating clear opportunities or clear tenders for those opportunities is one of the fastest way. And we have seen this in the renewable energy with the 1.5 giga of investment. It has attracted investors from all over the world, from the US, from Europe, from the Arab world, even from African funds that came and invested in the renewable energy because it was a clear type of tender. And it is the tender or creating tenders in different industries is definitely one of the ways to go and market it. The other go-to market, if I may call it in this way, is the partnership or the PPPs with the government. And this can be done through the Ministry of Finance and the PPP department, or through the Sovereign Wealth Fund, or through coming in partnerships with state-owned enterprises. I think that there is significant opportunity in marketing or building the right relations with the right investors in this one.
Finally, let me, so as not to close without touching upon globalization versus localization. We've all seen Brexit and Britain's exit from the European Union. Now you have talk about other movements in the region, such as in France, in Italy, and so on, which is quite worrisome for EU officials and for political observers worldwide. This has the pandemic and its effect on economies and its effect on the regional blocks, if you will, has shattered hopes, regional integration hopes for many. Do you see that the solution is in localizing industries, being self-sufficient in major sectors so as not to be reliant on others? So when the time comes and you have a black swan, you will not be as affected as you were.
I think that the globalization, the way that we have seen it, will change. We're seeing the US coming with Made in America. And President Biden is coming and promoting in the last week the Made in America. So it's a clear direction, and that we are seeing in different countries in the world about localization. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have directed several times about localization, either in the gas sector, in the car manufacturing, in improving the exports of Egypt to reach $100 billion, in localizing number or substituting
producing our own food.
Producing our own foods, the projects that we are seeing in the North Coast, the fisheries that we are seeing. So I think that the government has clear direction in localizing a number of different manufacturing and a number of different sectors, and bringing or improving our productivity in Egypt. Is there still an opportunity for global trade? I definitely perceive that the global trade still will be a very important area of growth for different countries. It's a matter of being competitive in the era of after COVID. I would believe that digital will play a very significant role. Healthcare also would and biotech especially would play a very significant role in the future. I believe that we have the brains, we have the investment capabilities to go into those sectors, and if we can move fast, I think that we would have a significant impact or a significant play. Egypt would play a significant role in the after COVID global economy.
Well then, would you agree with the forecast that by 2030 Egypt will be among the top 10 strongest economies in the world?
I would hope so. It's difficult for me to agree or disagree, but I think that we need to work to achieve. We have the right to dream, and we should be working very hard to achieve this goal.
On that note, I would say you're from the school that it's very hard to forecast with certainty.
Definitely.
Mr. Mohamed Morsy, Management and Public Sector Consultant and Chairman and Co-founder of T20, top 20 graduates.
Yes, graduates from top universities and top consulting firms.
Egyptians.
All Egyptians, yes.
Pleasure having you on the show.
That's my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Pleasure having you for the first episode of the Business Insider here on Now TV International. I'm Ayman Salah. Thanks for watching.